The town of Wrenford slept with one eye open. IT had always been small. 3 streets that met at the square, a single neon sign that buzzed outside May's Diner. People left their doors unlocked until the summer the Jennings money went missing. After that, neighbors began to count who came and who left. Evelyn Rowe found the safe where the Jennings family kept the cash and the old deeds. She knew because she had keys. Everyone in town trusted Evelyn as Wrenford's notary and executor of small estates. She slid into houses like sunlight through blinds. Quiet, necessary. When she opened the Jennings parlor to find the velvet-covered box gone, she called the sheriff. Sheriff Tom Alvarez had been sheriff long enough to read towns as well as he read paperwork. He arrived at the Jennings house and saw the scene. A kicked-over lamp, the throw rug folded wrong, a coffee cup still cooling on the side table. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the thin dust on the back porch. It looked like someone had walked in as if they belonged there. Who had access? Tom asked. Evelyn, of course, replied Mrs. Jennings, shaking slightly. And Esther from the bank, and a few contractors, anyone who handled the house. Tom's list was short. In a town of 2 stoplight size, access was a matter of degrees. Family, employees, and a handful of trusted friends. It's an easy thing to remember faces and harder to remember grudges. But grudges in Wrenford were the sort that sat in church pews and grew into grudges over coffee. They didn't explode, they simmered. Tom started where the obvious lived. Evelyn's keys were counted, pockets clicked, no velvet box. Esther at Wrenford Savings had been seen arguing with Mr. Jennings over loan payments a month earlier, but she produced an alibi. She'd been at the bank until closing and then at her grandson's piano recital. The contractors? All confirmed to work that day. The list narrowed. The simplest explanations are often the truest, and in Wrenford, that meant looking among the people who benefited from secrecy. The Jennings family had been charitable and generous in small, private ways. They had quietly funneled funds to St. Bartholomew's roof repairs and to the high school scholarship fund. But recently, the family has grown tight-lipped. The elder Jennings, Harold, had started receiving terse letters, threats, or warnings. The paper said nothing of. Tom visited Harold in the hospital, where he lay with a broken hip and a stubborn glare. "We kept the box for a rainy day," Harold croaked. "My boy Michael handles the rest." Old ways. Michael Jennings was Wrenford through and through, civic-minded, tidy, and too precise for comfort. He ran the hardware store, kept his hair neat, and paid his taxes on time. If the velvet box were leveraged, Michael would be the sort to hide it under a ledger, not in a stranger's pocket. Tom sat in Michael's office, in a chair that breathed dust when he shifted. There was an order, receipts stacked, a list of deliveries, and a ledger with an odd margin note, pay to Esther/$5,000 roof. The note matched the timing of the letters. Tom's mind slid into patterns. Payments, hushes, a desperate creditor. He also noticed a second mark loan from Darrow Urgent. Darrow was a name that made people lower their voices. Harrison Darrow had lent money to more townspeople than anyone and held more small favors than anyone wanted to count. The answer, if it was to be expected, would be the one everyone assumed but did not like to say. Someone with access, motive, and opportunities. Tom watched Michael the way a fisherman watches water patient, waiting for a ripple point one night. Tom and Evelyn walked past the hardware store after closing. Michael was in the back counting change under a dim bulb. He waved, tired, and said, "You know, Sheriff, small towns don't forgive grand gestures. We pay for peace." "What peace?" Tom asked. "Old inequalities," Michael said. "My father paid this town's debts when he was alive. When he asked me to keep his secret, I did. There's a ledger. I moved some things to cover the bank's mistake. I thought it was temporary." Tom watched the confession settle in the air like dust. Michael's hands were steady, but his jaw was clenched. He expected Tom to take him in, and Tom expected to take him in. The expected ending in a place like Wrenford wasn't a dramatic chase or a rooftop showdown. It was an exchange, responsibility for relief. Michael led Tom to the hardware store's back room. Behind crates of screws and rusty hinges, in a metal box bolted to a shelf, was the velvet-covered box. It contained old deeds and envelopes full of bills. Money meant for quiet repairs and private scholarships. It was the kind of money that kept the town comfortable without courting attention. "I moved it so the bank couldn't take it," Michael said simply. "They were going to foreclose on the things my father wanted to protect. I told myself it would be temporary. Then I couldn't make it right without admitting everything." Tom read the ledger, the bank letters, the payments to Esther and others that were meant to fix roofs and fund classes. He closed the hardcover on the obvious truth. Michael had taken what he thought was necessary to guard his father's legacy. It was theft, but it was wrapped in duty. An expected motive wrapped in a small-town moral logic. The townspeople expected the sheriff to do his duty. They didn't expect grace, but Tom believed in small mercies where he could afford them. He charged Michael, as the law required. In court, Michael pled guilty. He returned the money, some of which had been spent on repairs the townsfolk had already benefited from. He served a sentence that matched the crime shorter than some expected, longer than others hoped. When Michael came home, Wrenford did what it always did. It adjusted. Mrs. Jennings got her deeds back. St. Bartholomew's roof patched the last leaking tile. The neon at Mays buzzed on, indifferent. Evelyn went back to notarizing signatures and making small, tidy lists of what belonged to whom. The ending was not cinematic. It was expected. A man who loved his town, did the wrong thing to save what he loved, was found out and paid his dues. Wrenford learned again what it meant to protect a legacy and what it cost to bend the rules for what feels right. On the riverbank the following spring, children kicked up pebbles while elders folded themselves into familiar benches. Crimes in small towns rarely end with fireworks. They end with reckonings. And in Wrenford, reckonings smelled faintly of coffee, of rain on tin roofs, and of forgiveness measured out in minutes, and in the patient return of work undone. And that was The Velvet Box, a story of secrets, duty, and a crime with an ending everyone should have seen coming. If you enjoyed this story and want more chilling tales of betrayal, mystery, and true crime-style fiction, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Vault of Crimes, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a case. Because in every town, big or small, there's always another crime waiting to be uncovered.